Hello, everybody, and welcome to Swarm Community Call. This is a monthly open call for developers, node operators, and the wider community around Swarm, happening every last Thursday of the month here on X. As you're tuning in, please know that the call is being broadcast from Huddle. So if you'd like to ask a question or join the conversation later on, please head to Swarm's Discord server and post your questions in Discord server. In today's February's edition, the agenda is as follows. First, as always, core development updates. Next, we'll have Noah take us through the new developer guides. And after that, I'll invite Attila and David from Snaha team to present us with the so-called identity management for Swarm. This is a very exciting and use cases unlocking feature. I'm really looking forward to that presentation. So that said, let's kick things off. Core development updates first. B2.7.2.0 was released on 11th of February. It's a safe drop-in upgrade, no migrations, no required config changes, and all new features are opt-in. We've heard what the release package included in our previous calls, but I'd like to now invite Balint to do a little sum up and share with us how the release process went, the aftermath situation. Balint, do we have you? Do we hear you?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Indeed, the 2.7 has been released and it's doing really well. Almost 90% of nodes have already upgraded. Let me do a quick recap about what happened. This release had two main focuses. We prepared important groundwork for the future running B in the browser. Nodes now can advertise multiple addresses. This improves connectivity in different network setups. We also did auto-TLS support for secure connections. This means nodes can automatically get and use TLS certificates. These changes move us closer to support being in the browser, and we are happy to see community team efforts already moving in this direction. Second, alongside new features, we started an even stronger focus on stability and reliability. With 2.7, we worked on making the node more robust and more predictable in the long run. We, for example, improved how Azure-coded data is handled, refined how pinned content is managed, improved ENS resolution behavior, fixed several edge case errors in the codebase, and feed compatibility with legacy formats is now improved too. The release also includes various bug fixes, API updates, and the Go version upgrade. So please go and check the release notes for the full list of changes.
Thanks for this sum up, Balint. I'll be pasting this link to the release blog containing all the details in Discord node channel later. And I also encourage you all to please keep an eye on the new releases announcements. Balint, as a matter of fact, can you share more on what is actually the new releases announcements?
Sure. About the next steps. After releasing 2.7, we identified further improvements around P2P and Academia. There are release candidate is already on the public testnet, and we expect that 2.7.1 patch release to land in March. After that, we will continue with more patch releases focused on stability and performance. Our goal is simple: to make B more reliable, more efficient, and easier for everyone running a B node.
Yeah, that's a very straightforward, excellent goal. Thanks, Balint, for this report. If you have any questions, again, just pop them in the stage chat in Discord. But I'd like to add at this point that a new version for the Swarm desktop app was also already released. So desktop app users can now upgrade as well. You'll actually be automatically invited to do so upon initiating the desktop app. And that's not all. I'm also thrilled to say that this desktop app users will notice a new addition in the left navigation bar. There's the so-called file manager available now. What does this do? Okay, maybe first, like just a brief what's what intro. Swarm desktop app is the easiest way, I guess, to get directly into Swarm. It installs and runs a lightweight node on your computer, so you can connect directly to the network. That's the preferred way to approach this network. You can upload and download content without relying directly centralized to the gateways. It's tailored for newcomers, for non-technical users, I guess, and also for builders, and also for builders who just want the simplest entry point to Swarm, because it really removes most of the setup friction and lets you start using the network in just a few clicks. So a big recent addition, as I was saying, is the file manager. We had a demo of that in our previous call in September, and that makes everyday storage in Swarm feel much more familiar. So previously, uploading was more of a one-off action. You would upload a file, a folder, or a website, receive a hash, and then handle updates and persistence. So how long is your stuff in the network manually? But with the file manager, that changes into an ongoing storage workflow. So you can now work with drives, you can manage files over time, you can keep version history, restore earlier versions, you can move things to trash, so out of your site. And it's just all in all better understand how long data is meant to stay available. So instead of just uploading files to Swarm, you can now actually manage that storage in a way that feels much more natural, I guess, or intuitive. I encourage all the desktop app users to check that out, and also to come back to us with any feedback or improvement suggestions that you may have. We really value that very much. Okay, so on with the program. We haven't heard the research team's updates yet, and they also have plenty on the table. I'll ask Callum to please come on stage and share what the research items and progress is.
Yes. Hi, Mina. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. Hello, everybody. So in the research team, we've been working on quite a number of projects. Obviously, not anything that was inherently released with 2.7, but the work is ongoing. So let me break that down for everyone. And probably top of the list is our tokenomics roadmap of how we're going to overhaul tokenomics and incentive systems in general. The number one item on that list that I suppose is already agreed and moving into development is the withdrawable stake. So agreed and ready, but what we are just still working on and debating is the queue system for withdrawable stake in the first place. So that will be the kickoff task from the tokenomics roadmap, but that is a long document of many scripts, many tasks, many epics that will hopefully be published more in depth over the next coming weeks and months. And then also probably on a protocol level, our biggest change that we're looking to do is a bit of an overhaul of the pulsing protocol. And we are researching some of the edge case errors which could cause network disruption around radius changes and any other edge cases that maybe anyone in the community has found or has been previously mentioned on other calls. And that is taking up a serious amount of our time and development efforts, as well as then some of the lighter tasks such as some testnet experiments in the direction to make Swarm potentially multi-chain, which some of you may have seen. We're investigating how to do a Swarm testnet on base. And then as well, we are working on any of the bugs that have been reported internally. So they've been discussed, addressed, and the fixes are being worked on. Once the fixes are released, then we're able to publish much more material on those. But for now, we'll keep those close to our chest. And I think that just about covers everything that we're working in research from a very high level. Of course, if there's anything we've missed on a very long list,
it's a lot. Come on.
Yeah, please do put that
very,
in.
very exciting stuff too. So I suppose that people can go and ask more about it in Discord. There's actually a channel dedicated to research items. So feel free to pop in there and ask more. Yeah, there's plenty on the table and exciting stuff coming up. Thanks, Callum. But please stick around for any questions that may appear. Before we move on to the In Focus section, I have one more update. Starting in March, Swarm's DevRel team will be launching a series of hands-on, no-fluff workshops. The first one is on 18th of March. titled How to Decentralize Any Frontend, and it's a beginner to intermediate session on how to host dApps and websites on decentralized infrastructure, obviously, without turning it into a science project. We'll walk through 3 ways to do it, depending on your temperament and tolerance for interfaces. First one would be through Bport. So if you want the drag, drop, deploy route and don't mind a little centralization touch point on the way, that's the way to go. A second option would be through Swarm desktop app if you want your own direct and full control access, no middleman at any point. And option 3, Beeline node plus Swarm CLI if you prefer the terminal, scripts, and full dev control. I mean, now that anyone can spin up a personal site with Claude or whatever other AI tool you're using in minutes, so to say, the more interesting question is whether you still have to hand it over to a platform or host it yourself like in the olden days. So this workshop is about the part where you don't. Hosting it in a decentralized way is made very easy. And that matters. It means that you're no longer dependent on a platform or forced to run and maintain a traditional server yourself. Mind you, also, Swarm's designed in a way to lower the cost of hosting if your content gets popular, not the other way around as it is with centralized storage providers. So keep an eye out on the add to calendar and links to attend this workshop. They will be dropping next week. This should be a very practical and very useful course. And to more practical and useful things, I'm introducing the In Focus section now with the new developer guides written by Noah. And so I invite Noah on stage. Do we hear you, Noah? We don't yet. Probably you have to unmute. I saw you come in and out of,
Hello.
which I hope doesn't mean that you're like on a very
Can
unstable
you hear me
connection.
now?
Oh, yes. I mean, I can.
Okay. Okay.
Great.
I'm sharing my screen.
Excellent. I can see it. I hope everybody else does as well.
All right.
Take it away.
Give me one moment. Sure. So yeah, today I'm going to introduce this new section of the docs, building on the swarm. So the purpose of this section was to kind of provide a new entry point for developers who want to get started building on Swarm as fast as possible without needing to know all of the nitty-gritty details behind the scenes about what makes Swarm work. The thing that makes it different than what we've had before is that there's never really been a structured course of guides that guide you from zero to being able to, host your fully developed dApp on Swarm. In the past, a lot of these pieces of information were all over the place. You had to search through Discord, or you had to look through, historical. Scroll back 2 years through the chat logs, or it might have been mixed up all over the docs. Now it's all here in one place, and it's the go-to place to start. So to start with, I wanted to highlight especially 2 guides. One is 2 here, working with a file system and routing. Let's look at file system. So one thing you'll notice when we look through the guide is that you can see there is an examples repo here. And most, but not all, of the guides do come with a fully functioning, complete example project. And as you go through, you'll see code snippets from the example project along with explanations. And essentially all you need to do to go through the guide is just follow the commands as written and update with, if there's values that you need to update them, and it should just run straight away. And so this is also great if you want to do something and you need a fully working implementation of it and you want to build out from it. So these examples are a really great resource. Um, and I particularly wanted to highlight this one and also the routing one because they both deal with manifests. So I'm sure a lot of, if anyone who's done much development on Swarm is familiar with them, but if you're just getting ready to start learning how to develop on Swarm, you might not know so much about them, and that's because they haven't been that well documented. Uh, Basically, a manifest it maps file name or file paths to content on Swarm. So it's how when you upload a directory, the structure of the directory gets preserved on Swarm. So this is really important both for routing and also when you're working with files. So like if you're working with a virtual file system and you want to have a file available at a different path or not available, you need to update the manifest. And so both these guides go through how to do that. First for working with a file system, and then for routing. And routing is a bit of a special use case, so there's some more in-depth examples there. And then the other one I want to highlight is the running a gateway guide. So this one introduces how to set up a gateway using Swarm Gateway. If you've set up a gateway in the past, you may have used the the Gateway Proxy tool, which has been for a long time the go-to way to get a gateway set up. But that's currently set for deprecation. Not quite yet, but it's on the way there. And Swarm Gateway is going to be what replaces it. So this is a step-by-step walkthrough. So I mentioned that not all of the guides have example projects, and that's because much of this one is actually not you. There's not really an example project for you to look at. It's a lot of it is just setting things up with your DNS provider and running commands from the terminal. There's not like much code to deal with really. But yeah, so the other thing which I should have mentioned earlier, but I didn't get around to is that these guides are deliberately ordered. So they're ordered from simplest to most complex, and they introduce concepts so that each guide relies on concepts introduced in previous guides. So if you're an absolute beginner, you can start from the first guide and work your way through. If you're already familiar, you can pick where things start to sound a bit unfamiliar and start from there. But yeah. And then finally, I'd like to conclude with just asking for feedback. So this is ongoing. There's more guides being worked on. Right now, I'm working on a guide about how to use feeds to set up a type of dynamic content where you have a website with content that you can frequently update. And also like talking about like feeds of feeds and other concepts like that. And there's several other ideas floating around, but I would love to hear any suggestions for other guides that people would like to learn about. And then also the other little caveat I want to mention is that these are currently still being worked on. They are mostly complete and mostly correct, but I'm still polishing them up a little bit. So if you do notice any issues, please you can report them to me at my handle, which I will post in the chat, or you can also just do an issue or a PR at the bdocs repo in the Ethosphere GitHub organization. Yeah. So I think that pretty much concludes everything I have to say about the new section.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm seeing some people reporting that apparently we have an echo. So we need to be even more mindful of muting our mics, but I doubt that was the reason. I'm really not sure what's going on, and I really hope that now you can kind of hear us better. We don't use any filters. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say than like just hoping that it kind of works from now on. as we move to our final section, which is called Community Talk. And we have identity management from your node is you to you are you up next. So a little intro. Swarm has long solved storing and delivering data, but the identity effectively remains tied to the infrastructure, so to the node rather than to the person operating it or interacting with the network. That appears to be a hard ceiling on what on kinds of user-facing applications that can emerge. So this next talk is about removing that ceiling, about enabling the you are you model instead of the you are your node is you. Working on making that happen are the Snaha team, and I'm now joined by Attila and David, the driving force behind this project, and I'll give the floor to them to explain what the problem is. So what exactly is, let's say, broken in the your node is you model? Is it usability, portability, economic limitations, security concerns, all of the above perhaps, how to solve it, and what becomes possible once identity is attached to the user rather than to the device running the node. Attila, the stage is yours and David's. One more thing, please. Feel free to post questions on Swarm's Discord server under stage chat and we'll pick it up, or just join us later so that the conversation continues there. Can we hear you? Oh, no, you have to stop sharing the screen. I'm sorry, I haven't really said that before. Thank you. And Attila.
Yes, thank you. I'm sharing my screen. Just one sec.
I'm going to mute myself immediately so we don't get the echo, but please go ahead.
Okay. Alrighty. Oh, can you see my screen?
I do.
Okay, cool. So yes, thank you for the introduction. And yes, today I'm going to talk about the Swarm ID project, which enables easier application development on the Swarm platform. First of all, I would like to introduce ourselves and our team. So we are Snaha, and I'm Attila, the guy on the left, and with David, the guy in the middle. We worked together in 2018, building a decentralized social application on Swarm. And the platform was not production ready at that time, so later we joined and worked together for the Swarm Foundation, and there we met Wojtek, and together we built applications and tooling such as the BJS, the Swarm Gateway, and the desktop app. Since then, we left and then we founded our own company and worked on projects mostly in the Web3 space. So what is Swarm ID? As Mina mentioned, like Swarm is not simply a storage project. It also has certain unique features such as the single owner chunks, feeds, and access control that make it possible to write applications on top of it and use Swarm as a backend. However, this potential has been never really realized so far, and one of the reasons for that is that it's because it's difficult to write applications. Certain applications are completely missing. For example, identity management is missing. So this means if you want to create an app, you not only have to like write your app, but also you have to invent a way to manage identity, which in practice managing secret keys and solving all the problems and like managing user accounts, and that's not trivial. Ethereum wallets has like it's used in Ethereum, but they are what they can do is that they can like sign transactions and sign messages, and they have limited API for security reasons, and that's not trivial to just use for Swarm without adding something else to the solution. So enter Swarm ID, our project. We are basically trying to solve identity management, but once we started working on this, we also realized that there are other aspects that are also like difficult to solve. So, for example, on Swarm, if you want to store data on Swarm, you need to provide a proof that you have paid for the storage, and these proofs are called postage batches or postage stamps. And these were another friction point for developers when working with Swarm applications. So the model previously look like this, that before Swarm ID, there was this assumption when Swarm was created that everyone will run their own node, be it a light node or full node, and that the node will manage node identities, which is like your identity and also postage patches. But this is certainly not the case because of two reasons. There are platforms, well, for example, iOS, which makes it very difficult or even like impossible almost to run your own node. But even if you manage to do that, it's still it's still not very easy to like to share your nodes to applications. Basically, you don't want to open your node with data on it and possibly like money attached to it, open it to random applications. So this had to be solved some ways. Also, like yeah, okay, moving on. So Swarm ID changes that. Basically, what we figured is that we need to move the identity management and postage stamps to the application and out from the node. Because so the yeah, sorry, I get lost a bit. So yeah, so basically Swarm ID makes identities and postage batches portable and therefore available for different applications to use from different devices. Currently, it is built as a it is built for web applications. So there is a JavaScript library and a website to manage your account with the UI. The Swarm ID library is running in an iframe, so by default, applications have no access to the keys for private data, but it can be selectively disclosed. And Swarm ID doesn't require full access to the big API, only to the chunks endpoint. And all the communication is done with encrypted chunks by default. So you can have reasonable privacy and security even when your application connects to a gateway node. So what is included? Um, so you can create accounts with an Ethereum wallet or with a passkey. And under one account, you can have multiple identities or personas. So that if you, for example, want to separate your professional work from your personal account, that is possible even with one account. We separated like account types to local and synced accounts. And um, the reason for that is that the local accounts does not require you to have a post system because we cannot assume that everyone has their own postage stamps already, and currently there was a lot of improvements done in this space, and it's much easier to get a postage stamp, but it still requires you to do a payment, and we didn't want to to basically attach the account creation process for you to have to buy something. So we created this local account type, which is like a read-only account. You cannot write or store data with that on the network, but you can access data shared by others. And a synced account is one which has a postage stamp. And I talked about the security part. So I will talk a bit about like which APIs are currently implemented. So we have like chunk, data file, upload and download. There is SOCs supported with GSOCs, so with Graffiti SOCs. We have both feeds types implemented, with sequence and epoch type feeds and access control. And this is all done in client code, and everything is chunked and encrypted on the client side so that all the API uses only the chunk API on the node. And most of the APIs are modeled on the BJS API, but they are simpler because the postage stamps are automatically managed by Swarm ID, so you don't have to always provide one. And I have prepared a small demo. Hopefully it will work. So let's get to it. Oops. So we have a small demo application which only does like at the moment like it exposes the API so that like you can try out certain things, but I want to show you the connection flow basically, and then I will show you the UI of the Swarm ID. So when you press connect and you don't have an account, this is the Swarm ID page, then you can sign up with either with a passkey or with an Ethereum account. I will sign up with a passkey, and I'm using Linux, so I'm using YubiKey, so I have to like provide some password. It may be different on a Mac, but basically I created an account and the default identity under that account. And then when I go back to the app, then basically I'm connected. And from this point, then the app knows that I'm connected. I have a generated name and I have a generated ID that comes from that is derived from the master key that is from comes from the passkey, and then that belongs to an account, and then there is an identity derived from the account, and basically this is the Ethereum address of that identity. And so you can connect uh, apps with identities, and I will show you the UI a bit. I won't go through all the features because it's quite complex already, but just to get a feel for it. So like you see a list of apps that you connected with it. You can manage your own postage stamp. Currently, I don't have one and I won't set up for now, but like you can add the postage stamp, and then in the demo app, then you can upload and download data, and you have your identity details, and then if you have more than one, then you can see them here, and then you can switch between them, and then like there are like settings that you can do, and all these things. So you can imagine this is like pretty similar to like Google accounts or something like that, but it's completely uh, like it's your data, and it's done in a way that like uh, basically like the whole Swarm ID is just a front end application. There is no backend, and if you use a local account type, then all your data is stored in the browser. If you sync your account with a postage stamp, then all your data is stored in on Swarm with protected with encryption. That is where the encryption key is derived from your uh, account master key. So currently the project is uh, in development, so it's not production ready. But I would encourage you that if you are interested uh, in working on an application for Swarm, to reach out to us and and try it out. We are looking for feedback, and we also have some open challenges. So just to name a few, we have like one issue that we have is that on Safari, there's this intelligent tracking protection, which makes it difficult to share data between an iframe and an application. And so we have to find a workaround for that. Then another thing that we were thinking more that like there is no easy way for an Ethereum wallet to use key derivation method from an Ethereum wallet the same way, for example, that passkey allows you to do that. You can only do signing operations, but that's not completely deterministic, so that cannot be used as easily. Then another thing that we are working on is to basically effectively sharing the postage batch utilization. So now the postage batch utilization is it has to be kept track like basically like when you buy a postage batch, it is made up of several postage stamps, possibly like thousands or even more. And then you have to keep track of which one of them is used and which one of them is not. And the problem here, just to understand, is that if you use an account from the same time from different devices, then these have to be kept in synchronized. So, and that's not trivial. Like Swarm does not have built-in primitives to support this, so we might need to look for other solutions. And the last open research issue is to find a way to support like session keys, like temporary keys that can provide you access to some resources, but that can expire after a certain time. So I collected some links, and I will share the presentation in the Swarm stage chat. and let me know if you have any more questions about it.
Thanks, Attila. This is super exciting. So this, like, I know. I mean, this is especially important for Swarm because it kind of, if I understood you correctly, really moves it from being more a storage layer into being, I don't know, a user platform of sorts. So, just to stir the imagination a little bit, what would developers be able to build once this is in place that they cannot build cleanly today? If you just maybe have some examples of what this unlocks.
Yeah, so like technically everything is possible today, but like the problem is that, for example, like if you want to have an application where like users are responsible for storing their own data, it's not very easy to do. Like you either have to like ask them to run their own nodes, have their own postage stamps on that node, and then connect that with your app. And there's no standard way to do that. And also like for most applications, this is just too much to ask for. So basically, what we had in mind is that we wanted to make it as easy to connect and set up like the connection flow. Basically, when you connect your account to an application, we wanted to make this as easy as like like using any kind of like Google account or something like that. So we had that in mind. And before that, that was a very big problem that like each developer had to solve for themselves, and now they don't have to worry about this. And the other thing is that like just to imagine that like if you want to work on Swarm with like mutable resources like feeds and single merchants, then you have to do a lot of like signing operations, like cryptographic signing operations. And if you relied on something like using an Ethereum wallet, that meant that like every time you had to basically like display a pop-up so that like a user signs a wallet, but like that's not feasible. Like if you are thinking of a chat application, then each of your message is basically an update on a feed, and then it's like just imagine the hell that like it would mean if like you want to build a chat app and then every time you want to send a message, then you have to sign a transaction. So we wanted to simplify these kind of problems, and that means that like this will be very straightforward in the future and very easy for developers to think about.
Fantastic. I mean, this is huge, like just bringing the whole what is possible in a decentralized way on a level of, from theory to actual practice, and actual practice in terms of, removing all the friction points on the way there. This is so great, but there's still some work to be done, if I understand you correctly. Is there like a plan or as to like when do you intend to roll this out or have it ready for in like MVP format? Is there a way to connect with you guys? I mean, I see these links here and we'll definitely be sharing them, but just so to repeat again, where can people reach out to you and get engaged if they wish so?
Yes, so we are present on the Swarm Discord, so you can reach out to me and then uh, I can guide you to resources and questions and issues that we are working on. There is a GitHub repo as well. And so about the timeline, so we plan to finish like a proof of concept version by end of next month. And after that, we will. I'm not sure we are going to be able to solve all these problems that I mentioned, but at least we will open up the platform for everyone to use. We already have like documentation and all these things, so it's not like if someone is brave enough and wants to contribute, then they can already start doing it today. Um, and then there are further like things that we want to work on. Like basically, we plan to work on some kind of better demo application that can showcase what is possible with this. And because right now what we have is just a very simple thing that basically lets you to access the API. And but that's not very exciting. We want to build something that is more like a realistic application.
Is this the conversation that we could perhaps continue live at ETH Prague, which is in early May? Swarm team is going to be present there. I know that you're also coming, so maybe this is also a good time to invite people to find us there and kind of talk in real life about this.
Definitely.
Okay, fantastic. I do hope that the echoes and whatever else was reported, some weird filters or something that sounded like filters, were not disturbing too much, because this is a really huge step forward for Swarm in unlocking the use cases. And that brings us to the end of the call. Please do come to Discord server to continue this conversation. And I thank you all for joining us live and listening to the call retrospectively. If you're listening to the call retrospectively, we'll be back next month, as always, last Thursday of the month, which falls on 26th of March. Thanks again. Take care, and let us proceed together apace. Thank you. Bye-bye.